Imagine sitting peacefully, minding your own business when suddenly, someone shouts across the park, "Go back to Africa!" The air freezes. Gasps echo. Phones come out. Everyone expects a fight, but what happens next? No one could have predicted. The words cut through the air like a knife. Go back to Africa. The insult wasn't just loud, it was venomous, filled with a kind of bitterness that made the entire park stop in its tracks. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Children stopped chasing their soccer ball. Joggers slowed down, pulling out their earbuds to make sure they'd heard right. Even the street vendors who had been shouting prices for hot dogs and pretzels fell silent. Every eye turned toward the source of the noise, a woman in her mid-50s. Her face was twisted with anger, her finger jabbing accusingly toward a tall black man seated on a park bench. Her body language said it all. This wasn't just a comment. It was an attack. And the man she was shouting at, he hadn't done a thing. No argument, no confrontation. He hadn't even spoken to her. He was simply existing. The man's name was Marcus Williams. Anyone looking at him would have seen nothing threatening, only a calm, composed man who looked like he had just stepped out of an office meeting. He wore a crisp, button-down shirt tucked neatly into slacks, polished shoes, and glasses that gave him the quiet air of a professor. In his hands was a book worn at the edges as though it had been read many times before. He didn't react at first. Instead, Marcus closed the book slowly, almost deliberately. The soft thud of the cover echoed louder than the hateful words that had just been thrown at him. It was as if he was telling the world, "I hear you, but I will decide how to respond." The tension in the air was electric. The crowd that had gathered around them braced itself for what was about to happen. Surely no one could just let such an insult pass by. Some people expected Marcus to yell back. Others thought he might walk away. A few feared the situation might turn physical. Everyone held their breath, caught between outrage and curiosity. But Marcus didn't rush. He didn't lose control. He simply looked up, his eyes locking on the woman who had tried to strip him of his dignity with a single sentence. His calmness alone unsettled her, and left the entire park waiting for what he would say next. Marcus didn't yell. He didn't insult her back. Instead, he stood up slowly, unfolding his tall frame with calm precision. In an instant, the balance of power shifted. He didn't need to raise his voice. His very presence commanded respect. He towered over the woman without even trying, and yet his eyes stayed steady, filled not with anger but with quiet dignity. "You want me to go back to Africa?" he asked softly, his tone calm but carrying enough weight for everyone in the park to hear. The woman smirked, her arms folding defiantly across her chest. "That's right," she said, her words dripping with arrogance. "People like you don't belong here." A ripple of discomfort spread through the crowd. Parents instinctively pulled their children closer, shielding them from the ugliness of the moment. Some bystanders shook their heads in disbelief, unable to fathom how someone could speak with such hate in broad daylight. Others raised their phones, hitting record, knowing they were witnessing something unforgettable. Marcus took a single step closer, not aggressive, not threatening, but deliberate. He positioned himself just near enough that she couldn't dismiss him, couldn't brush him aside like an afterthought. When he spoke, his words were clear and measured, each syllable landing like a steady drumbeat. "My ancestors didn't ask to come here," Marcus began, his voice steady as stone. "They were dragged here, shackled, torn from their homes, their families, their language, and their freedom. They didn't have a choice," the woman's smirk faltered, but Marcus continued, unwavering. "And yet," he said, his voice growing stronger, "through pain and injustice, they built this country with their blood, sweat, and tears. They farmed the fields, raised the structures, and created the very wealth that this nation still benefits from today." The crowd grew eerily silent. Even the birds circling above seemed quieter, as if nature itself understood the weight of his words. People leaned in, drawn not just to what he was saying, but how he was saying it, with a calm strength that carried generations of history in every sentence. Some in the crowd nodded subtly, others wiped at their eyes, already moved by a truth too powerful to deny. What had started as an insult was quickly transforming into a lesson, one the entire park would carry with them long after this moment ended. Marcus wasn't finished. His voice carried a weight that wrapped itself around every ear in the park, a weight no one could deny. "You tell me to go back to Africa," as he said, his gaze fixed firmly on the woman. But do you understand what those words really mean? It means erasing centuries of struggle. It means pretending the blood, sweat, and tears of my ancestors never happened. It means denying the sacrifices of men and women who fought and died for freedom, for justice, for equality. It means ignoring the truth that America is just as much my home as it is yours. The woman shifted. For the first time, her arrogance cracked. The smirk that once sat proudly on her lips slipped away, replaced by something far less certain. Her shoulders tightened, her arms no longer folded with confidence. She hadn't expected this. She had expected rage, shouting, maybe insults she could throw back, that she could handle. But not this calm, unwavering truth that sliced through her ignorance like sunlight through fog. Marcus paused for a moment, letting the silence build before he turned his head slightly, his eyes sweeping across the park. Suddenly, he was no longer speaking just to her, he was speaking to everyone. I pay taxes, Marcus continued, his voice steady. I vote, I follow the law. I work hard every single day to provide for my family. I raise my children here, teaching them values of kindness, respect, and responsibility. I give back to my community. I contribute to this country every single day of my life. He stepped forward just slightly, his words reaching even the people at the far edges of the crowd. So tell me, he asked, his tone firm but not hostile, why don't I belong? Is it because of the color of my skin? Is that all it takes for you to decide who is American and who is not? A murmur spread through the onlookers. People glanced at one another, some nodding in agreement, others whispering to their neighbors. A few began to clap softly at first, almost hesitant to break the spell of his words. Parents explained in hushed tones to their children why what they were hearing mattered. For the first time, the woman looked small, her voice stolen by the undeniable truth standing in front of her. The woman tried to recover, her words stumbling over themselves. I just meant people like you. Marcus didn't let her finish. His voice cut through her hesitation, firm yet calm. People like me? He asked, tilting his head slightly. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean educated, hardworking, a father, a neighbor, a citizen who pays his dues, or? He paused, locking eyes with her. Do you mean black? The question landed like a hammer. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, undeniable and impossible to escape. The woman's lips parted, but no sound came out. She blinked rapidly, her face flushing with heat. For the first time, she realized she had no shield, no excuse. But the crowd found its voice from the back. A man shouted, "Tell her, brother!" His voice rang out with pride and encouragement. Near the front, a young woman began to clap. Once, twice, her hands echoing through the tense air. Within seconds, others joined in. The claps grew into a wave, rolling through the park until dozens of people were applauding, some even cheering. The woman looked around, her face burning red as the energy turned against her. What she thought would be an easy insult had become a stage where her ignorance was laid bare for everyone to see. Marcus raised his hand, his palm open, signaling for quiet. The applause softened, but the respect in the air was undeniable. He wasn't finished. You see, Marcus began, his voice carrying with quiet strength. Racism doesn't just hurt the people it's aimed at. It poisons all of us. It poisons communities. It teaches children to hate when they should be learning to love. It divides neighbors when what we need most is unity. And if you truly believe this country is stronger when we exclude people, then you've forgotten what America was built on. His words were steady, every sentence landing with conviction. America is not perfect, but it is home to all of us who build it, protect it, and love it. That's the truth, and that truth is bigger than hate. The applause erupted again, this time louder, stronger, unstoppable. The sound filled the park, drowning out everything else. The woman's shoulders sagged as her arrogance crumbled. She had lost the crowd because the truth had spoken louder than her prejudice ever could. Finally, Marcus looked back at her one last time. His posture was relaxed, but his presence still commanded the park. When he spoke, his tone softened, not harsh, not condemning, but his words carried the weight of a hammer striking the final nail. You told me to go back to Africa, he said slowly, deliberately, letting the words echo. But let me tell you something, I am home. This is my country. My roots may stretch across oceans, but my life, my family, and my future are here, and no amount of hate will change that. It was the kind of statement that didn't need to be shouted to be powerful. It was truth, plain, undeniable, and unshakable. The woman lowered her eyes, her shoulders folding inward as if the strength had drained out of her body. The smirk that once lit her face with arrogance was gone, replaced by shame. She tried to glance around, but everywhere she looked, she met the same thing: disapproval, disappointment, and quiet judgment. With no escape from the truth she'd just been confronted with, she turned quickly on her heel and hurried out of the park. Her footsteps seemed louder than they were, a hasty retreat from the very stage she had created. The moment she disappeared, the crowd erupted into cheers. The applause was thunderous now, free of hesitation. Some people shouted words of encouragement. "Bravo! That's right. Thank you." Others moved closer to Marcus, reaching out to shake his hand, offering words of gratitude. One man clasped his shoulder and said firmly, "You spoke for all of us today." A young boy, no older than 10, tugged at his father's sleeve, pointing at Marcus with wide eyes. "He's a hero," the boy whispered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. Marcus smiled warmly at the child, his expression softening in a way that words couldn't capture. He picked up his book from the bench, dusted it off casually, and returned to his seat. He didn't raise his hands in victory, didn't gloat, didn't bask in the attention. He simply opened his book again, as if reminding everyone that he wasn't there for a fight. He had only responded when hate had forced itself into his peace. And as the crowd slowly dispersed, conversations buzzing with admiration, one truth lingered in the air. This day wasn't about a racist insult. It was about a black man's strength, wisdom, and dignity. His words had turned ignorance into a lesson, and his calm response had left an entire crowd speechless. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more powerful and inspiring stories. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.